Do you need to get a life? Hi, I'm Mike Mason. This is the Immortal Combat Podcast. The Immortal Combat Podcast is the podcast arm of Very Christi. Very Christi is a Catholic lay apostolate devoted to help men attain the full stature of Christ by growing strong in mind, body, and spirit. If you'd like to learn more about our work, you can check us out online at verychristi.com and stjosephsociety.org. All right, gentlemen, happy Friday to you all. This second Friday of Easter, if I'm counting correctly. Hope you guys are having a blessed Easter season, enjoying all the festivities that come with it. Hopefully, wherever you're listening to this, you're enjoying warmer weather and longer sunny days as well. So, all right, what I'd like to throw out to you guys today for your consideration this week, a little bit of encouragement. The question I posed at the beginning: do you need to get a life? All right, what do I mean by this? There was a book written by a great Thomistic philosopher by the name of Joseph Pieper. That's Josef Pieper, Pieper. And the book was called Leisure, the Basis of Culture. It's an incredible book. My copy's not here, or I would show it to you, but you can find it on Google. It's a really, really, really short essay and would well be worth your time. And I'm sure in the future I'll do more podcasts where we talk about what he writes in that book. But the main gist of this is he's in Germany in 1948. It's at the end of the war, and Germany's been flattened, and the German society needs to kind of figure out how it's going to move forward. And so what Pieper wants to argue is that they should give a serious philosophical reflection upon the nature of work itself. Okay, because they're really starting from ground zero because everything's been flattened. And so he wrote this book called Leisure, the Basis of Culture, to say that at the basis of any true and healthy culture is leisure. Okay. Now, I'm going to keep my reflections short as I do on these, so I can't get into everything he means by that. But let's talk about what he's warring against. Okay. He's warring against the concept of total work or total labor. Okay. So he's going to analyze this and critique this very carefully. And what he poses, he says, in Western man, which would definitely include Americans because we fall into this big time, is if you think about it, our whole lives are about work. Okay. And what he would argue is that when you take a break from work, whether that's an hour break at lunch, or you go home for the day at night, or you take a weekend off, or you go on vacation, that is always a break to be refreshed from work and for work. Okay, and this may seem a little subtle, but what he says is this: when you get off, the whole point of getting off, the whole point of taking a break, the whole point of doing activities, taking a nap or having some sort of taking your kids to baseball practice or whatever it is you do for fun, is the mindset's always you're doing that to get a break from work, and then you're refreshing yourself. But the purpose of the refreshment is to go back to work the next day or on Monday or whatever. Now, if this is your mindset towards work, what work has become is the center of your life. Work informs everything you do because everything else you're doing is for the sake of work. What he argues in the book is that this is not a Christian way of approaching things. It's not the right way to approach things either. And he argues in the book that it's not an ancient approach to work, nor is it a medieval, and nor we argue it's a Catholic one. We were not made to worship. We are not made to work. We were made to worship. Slightly slip of the tongue there. We were not made to work. The point of life is not work. Jesus says, I have not called you servants. I have called you friends. The point of our lives is to be welcomed into friendship with God. And though work has a noble aspect to it, I'm not going to deny that. Because work doesn't have just a necessity. There's a certain nobility that comes with it, and the many popes in the past have talked about that. We're not made for work, and so what made me think about this is as I'm recording this, I'll release it on Friday, but as I'm recording this, it is Thursday, May 1st, and it's Saint Joseph the Worker. And so on this day, we all pause and we think about the importance of work and the dignity of work, which are great things. And I'm certainly not advocating for being lazy or not working hard, and neither is Joseph Pieper. But what he is challenging us is that, is work our God? Has it taken the central place? Because that's not what it's for. Again, Jesus said, I've not called you servants, but friends. Guys, the point of our life, the ultimate point in heaven and the point of our lives now is to contemplate God, to be in friendship with God, to see him as he is in himself, to see him face to face, as the scriptures say, in the beatific vision. That's the point of life. The high point of life, the whole point of the work of the week, pardon me, is to worship God in mass. And that's his ultimate conclusion. Okay. Now, practically speaking, so let's get some nuts and bolts. Here's what I want to challenge you guys this week to reflect upon. What I want to challenge you is that you need two things in your life: contemplation and a hobby. Okay. Contemplation and a hobby. Why am I going to argue for these two things? These two things are very human activities. Okay. Let's start with contemplation. The point of our existence is to contemplate God and to contemplate reality. Guys, we work to buy our lives back. Okay. Our work should serve contemplation, not the other way around. So our leisure time, our contemplation time, that isn't to refresh us to go back to work. Work's there to carve out the space in life to contemplate. Okay. Now, when I say your life's meant for contemplation, do I mean you guys need to go get a master's in philosophy? No. Do you need to be a professional theologian? No. But you were made to contemplate God and the world in which he's created. Men, you must read. Okay. And in our rule of life, twice a week, we set time aside to learn our faith a little better. That's not merely for defense purposes against bad ideas, though it serves that. It's that you can contemplate truths that God has revealed through divine revelation, right? Sacred scripture and sacred tradition, to contemplate God himself and the world he made. Men, we need to read. Second, you need time for reflection. We need quiet, stillness, whether that's before the Blessed Sacrament or that is going for a walk after dinner. If that is time at Mass on Sunday, you need time set aside for reflection. Okay. One thing that I really enjoy to do is I like going for walks. So after dinner a lot, especially now if the weather's getting nice, I just go and walk. I don't put AirPods in. I don't take a cell phone with me. I just walk and I think and I contemplate and I reflect. And sometimes my reflections are pretty shallow, just about day-to-day activities. Sometimes God will call to mind something I read that morning or some sort of truth of the faith, and I think about that. Then you need to carve out time for reflection. Go for walks. Sit on your back porch. You need stillness and quiet. Last part with contemplation, men, is you need worship. Festivities, okay, not just vacations, but holidays, holy days should take central role in our lives. Guys, are we getting our families to those special feast days during the week? Okay. If your church has, maybe your church has a devotion to St. Joseph and there's a mass tonight for St. Joseph Worker. Are we getting our families there? Is Sunday, when we show up to worship Almighty God, is it a day set aside for worship of God in the morning, reflection and contemplation on the wonders of God and the world that he's made, for maybe a little bit of reading and reflection? Sunday should be special. The work week is for the sake of Sunday. Sunday's not for the sake of work. Okay. And so I want to encourage you guys to make that central. Second thing you need is hobbies. Guys, too many men in their free time deal in entertainment. I want to encourage you to have recreation. Okay. What is entertainment? Entertainment is passive, watching movies, listening to pleasurable music, stuff like that. Now, I'm not opposed to entertainment. Okay, I think entertainment has a role in our lives. Sometimes we just need to have some passive time and kind of let meteor things happen to us. That's okay. But we also need recreation, because recreation is an active sort of rest that rejuvenates us. And this is where hobbies come in. Recreation is just like the word it says, it's recreating something. Men, we need hobbies. Okay. You need a hobby of going hunting or gardening or becoming a woodworker or learning to play the guitar. Okay. Especially men need hobbies. And the wonderful thing about hobbies is they will recreate you. Okay. They're also things that you can invite your wife and children to come with you on, these many little adventures in your hobby, whether that's pulling weeds out of the garden, or whether that's going on a hike or going on a fishing trip. Okay. Children love to accompany their fathers on with their hobbies. I was talking to my students this week and kind of encourage them how to make good and healthy choices. And two things I told them, I'm blessed with a great group of friends. I got best buddies in the world. Okay. Great group of guys God's blessed me with. All of my friends that I like the most do two things. They have two things in common for all their differences. They read and they have hobbies. And so when we spend time together, it's easy for us to discuss the things we've been thinking about and reading about. These are men that are serious about their Catholic faith. They reflect upon God and the world he's made. And all of them have different hobbies. And some guys read a little bit and they do hobbies a little bit more. Some guys are light on hobbies and they read a lot more. But all of my friends have those two things in common. And when we get together, we always have things to talk about. And one of the things I love hanging around guys who have hobbies that they're passionate about. I have a buddy of mine is a woodworker. He and I go hiking because we both are outdoorsmen as well. We go hiking and he will just walk through and for hours point trees out and talk about the wood, that tree, what makes that wood different than other woods, what you can use that wood for. And I just eat that stuff up because I know next to nothing about wood and trees and woodworking. But I love listening to him talk about it because I learned something and I take great joy in that. Okay. And so, men, I want to encourage you, set time aside for contemplation. Your job, as important as it is and as good as it is, that's not what life's about. We make a living to buy our life back, to have a real life, to get a life of contemplation, reading, reflecting, and worship. Second, guys, we need hobbies that can recreate us. Okay. Find those hobbies. Can you guys right now, as you're listening to my voice, if you and I were sitting down having a cup of coffee and I asked you, what have you been reading? Could you talk to me about things you've been learning? If I asked you, what's been on your mind recently? Could you give me some thoughts? Second, is there a hobby you're working on? What are you into? Men need these things. And these are not selfish endeavors, because what these two things do is they rejuvenate our souls, because these are very human activities. And these are also things we invite others into. These are very communal type of activities as well. So that's my thoughts for you guys today. Don't get caught up in the passive entertainment mode of contemporary culture. Don't try to alleviate your stress with, sucking down beers or doing some other ridiculous thing. Spend some time in contemplation, get a good hobby, and surround yourself with other like-minded men. You guys will be all right. So hope that's helpful for y'all. We'll definitely return to Joseph Pieper's thought in the future. He's really fascinating. If you're wondering what you should read and reflect on, go ahead and get online by Leisure, The Basis of Culture by Joseph Pieper. You definitely will not regret it. So, man, I hope you guys have a blessed week. Look forward to talking to you next time. Bless.